Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone is doing well. So yesterday I made a movie. Yesterday I made a video about unworthiness. But the person who asked me to make that video asked for something else, actually. They asked how to feel worthy. Now, I usually do not do videos like that, telling people how to achieve something. And the reason why I don't do that is because when you tell someone exactly what to do, how to achieve it, they're following your guidance, they're following your direction. And the problem with that is there's a lack of intent or a lack of motivation to understand why something exists. Like, you can say, okay, how do I prevent myself from having heart attacks? Like, what can I do to stop myself from having a stroke or something like that? Well, they would be asking for some type of medication, some kind of cure, some kind of something to help stop that. But they're not asking, how does it come about and how do I prevent these things from coming about? They want the result to stop, but they don't want to understand or stop what has caused it. And this is why I don't do videos like this. Because they're like, okay, well, all I have to do is this. All I have to do is this. And they never have the understanding as to why it presented itself in the first place. And so that doesn't give them a sense, or that doesn't put them in a position of power. It doesn't put them in a position of control. It doesn't put them in a position of being able to create in a way that is sustainable. So yeah, you can follow directions and get a result, but can it be sustained? You have to understand it so that you don't create that scenario again, so you don't create that event again. And this is why karma keeps coming, because people don't understand this. They don't understand. You need to understand how it came about to begin with. You don't want to just focus on how to take away the pain. So that's what's happening in this case. Someone wants to know how to feel worthy. But that means that they have unworthiness. And they have to understand why they have unworthiness before they can truly stop the feeling of unworthiness. Now, you can do all kinds of things with the mind, and this is why I don't like making videos like this, because you can trick yourself with the mind, thinking that you have made progress when you haven't. And I was just having a conversation with a coworker yesterday about this, that they thought they had overcome something, but in actuality they didn't, because an event or an experience came up, and those emotions that they thought were gone and taken care of resurfaced, because they didn't understand, after all the things that I said, after all the conversations that we've had, explaining why something exists, and the only way to get rid of it, and the only way to get rid of something is through releasing of emotional injury. But if you want to take steps to do this, and what to do with the mind, and all these things, you're never going to heal yourself. You're just going to continue to fool yourself. So on this video, I decided to do it, but do it in a way where it's clearly understood how something even gets in there to make you feel unworthy. Because it's the same process to feel worthy. The same process that is taken. Oh God, skunk again. It's always in this area. Jesus. The same process that one engages in, I should say, to feel unworthy is the same process that one must engage in order to feel worthy. However, there is an added step. There is an added step to releasing, to feeling worthy completely. And that is the releasing of the emotional injury. The process is exactly the same when it happens, but people are so afraid of releasing, they don't, it's just, I don't, I get it, like, I understand. People are just afraid of pain, so they want to do everything in their power to stop the pain, which is why this person wants to know, how do I stop the pain of feeling unworthy? Well, how do you do that? Well, feel worthy so you don't feel unworthy. You feel the greatness and the joy and the happiness and the confidence in feeling worthy. So this is why they want to know how to feel worthy. But it's important to understand the entire process in terms of how to release that which is causing you to feel unworthy to begin with. So, here's the process. There is a thought. There is a focus, I should say. It starts with the focus. And it starts with the focus on a thought. For instance, someone can say, you're ugly. Someone can say, you're not pretty. Someone can say, you're dumb. These are thoughts that people are having, and they come in. All right? This is the focus on someone's thought coming into you. Understand that these thoughts are coming into you from someone else. And so the thought comes in, and immediately there is an emotion attached to it. You're ugly. What is the emotion? Feeling of sadness. The emotion of sadness. Feeling of pain of some sort. It's the feeling of pain. It's the feeling of inadequacy. This is what I'm talking about. There is an emotion attached to the thought that had just come into you. The thing is, the emotion is only present when you accept the thought. When you focus on the thought that has come into your being, into your soul, when you accept it, you then have a response to it emotionally. Understand? But also understand this. It can only enter and have that effect if it already dwells within you. This is why it's so important to understand the emotional injuries that are transferred to the soul at conception. So for those who have not listened to my videos before and you don't understand how the soul works and emotions and emotional injuries and emotional transference from soul to soul, yesterday's video, I believe I spoke about the soul being a blank slate before incarnation. The only things that are in the soul that God has created is perfection. All the things that are good, all the things that are loving. That's all that's there. All your gifts, all of that stuff is already there. When you incarnate, at the moment of incarnation, at the moment of conception, emotional injuries are transferred from your mother soul and your father soul directly into your soul. This is why you have similar experiences, oftentimes the same experiences as your parents, because they gave you their experiences, the feelings of their experiences, the emotions of their experiences. That's what they're giving to you. They're not giving you the actual event. They're giving you the result of those things. And you now, the universe is responding, because that's what the universe does. It responds to the soul. That's all the universe is doing, is responding to our soul. So if you're treated well, it's because this is what your parents have transferred into your soul. Some people are more loving than others because there's more love transferred into the soul. There's less degradation transferred into that soul. But when there's a lot of degradation, then there's a lot of experiences that are going to come your way that are going to expose that which dwells within you. The universe is always exposing. It's always reflecting back to you what dwells within you. If you have a lot of positive experiences, it's because you have a lot of love within your soul. Therefore, the universe is reflecting this to you. If you have a great deal of pain in your life, then this is pain within your soul, degradation within your soul, then the universe is reflecting this back to you. So you are always aware of what dwells within your soul and where you are at in your soul. Where you stand in the moment, real time. This is what the universe is doing for you, to you, and for you. So you are never, ever, ever at a loss as to where you are in your life. If you feel lonely, there's loneliness within your soul. If you feel inadequate, there is inadequacy within your soul. You get it? All right. So that's what's happening. So you have the focus on the thought. But here's the thing. You have control in that moment when that thought comes in. You have control in that moment when that thought comes in. What you have what you have, the power that you have in that moment, when someone says something to you, you have the ability to have an outgoing thought. This is where life can make or break you, in this beginning process. See, in the past, you've only accepted things that people have told you, for the most part. Unless you're taught, you never accept what anyone says about you. You never accept it in that moment in raw form. You can hear it, you can process it, but you need to have an outgoing thought. Most people, what happens is someone will say something to them. It's an incoming thought. And what happens is they have the same outgoing thought. And this is because it already dwells within your soul. Alright? So when someone says, hey, you're not capable, and you're slow, and you're stupid, this is common. People say, oh my God, you're so slow. Oh my gosh, you're so dumb. This is an incoming thought. There's a feeling attached to it. Now it's in your soul. Now it's in your soul. Once you have the emotion, because that is all that the soul is processing. Emotions and feelings. Emotions are feelings. We're feeling creatures, people. We are emotional beings, people. We're not experienced beings. We're emotional beings. This is every single thing that you ever experience has an emotion attached to it, has a feeling attached to it. When you have a piece of chocolate cake and you have a positive response, that is an emotion that you're having. And it's making you feel good because that is the response that you're having. But if you have garlic, you start chewing on garlic or lemon, just plain, depending on who you are. Some people like lemon. Some people don't like it. They don't like garlic, chewing on raw garlic. Some people can. Some people can drink garlic water. Some people cannot. But you will have a feeling attached to it. You're either going to have a pleasant one or an unpleasant one. And you're either going to love something or you're going to not love it. You're going to prefer something or you're not. But there's always going to be an emotion attached to it. And that's going to be in your soul. Well, here's the thing. Let me stick with that just for a moment. That outgoing thought, anytime anyone says something to you that creates an emotion or feeling that is of pain or dislike, what you want to do is quickly have an outgoing thought debunking that. This is what you must do. Because if you don't, you're just going to have the outgoing thought that is the same as the incoming thought. It's going to be reinforced. And this is where the belief is created. Because what happens is you have someone who says something about you, to you, about you. You have a feeling, depending on your outgoing thought, meaning depending on the type of outgoing thought that you have, you will reinforce and go back to the thought. The emotion goes back to the thought is had again, the emotion is had again, the thought is had again. This is your focus. This is your focus, people. You have the thought, you have the emotion triggers another thought, the thought triggers the emotion, and this is a cycle. And before you know it, you have a belief going on. This is the belief. This is the belief. It becomes, and it's a small belief. It's a small belief. It's not a major belief. It's a small belief. But people who have done this over the course of years in their life, it becomes a bigger belief. But beyond that, it moves to this place where it's called the ROS. It's the reticular activating system. And this is where things get automatic. This is where you don't consciously think about you don't consciously think about it. This is where things get automatic. And the reticular activating system is looking for confirmation. So what happens is, now that you have this belief, and it moves into this automatic state where now you're looking, because you're looking to validate yourself. Because this is the belief that you have about yourself. Now the process has moved from that stage where you had control Remember I said you have control in terms of the outgoing thought. But if you don't know about this, then you never had control. And so you only accepted the incoming thought. The incoming thought of judgment from another. The incoming thought of condemnation from another. The incoming thought of unworthiness from another. The incoming thought of a lack of value from another. And your outgoing thought matched the incoming thought, and that was your focus, and it became a belief. And this has happened over a course of years. So now it's moving to this automatic phase where it's happening subconsciously, and now because we want to validate who we are going to look for instances that will validate the belief that we have about ourselves. So if someone says, hey, you're slow, you're going to identify all the times that you were slow. And this is a validation. This is the confirmation that the human being is looking for. And then what happens, once it's confirmed, it becomes a conviction. It becomes a conviction. And once something becomes a conviction, nobody can tell you anything. This is why it's so important to understand the process. Not just, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. Because people will say, okay, affirmations. I am love, I am light. I am love, I am light. I am worthy, I am beautiful. I am worthy, I am beautiful. I am smart. I am worthy. You is kind. You is smart. You is important. Stop it, Zachary. Anyway, but this is the process. So what do you do? How do you feel worthy? Well, first of all, you have to reverse this process. You cannot, in the beginning, the process in the beginning, you cannot just accept the incoming, you cannot just accept the incoming thought. And this is, you must be conscious. You must be aware of this when it happens. You know when someone is saying something that is unloving to you, but you cannot agree. The outgoing thought that you have about yourself cannot be the same as the one that is coming to you from another person. The incoming thought must be different from the outgoing thought that you have. Anytime anyone says anything negative about you, anything that is less than perfect, you need to change that outgoing thought. Meaning you need to change the structure of that thought, because this is energy coming in, people. For those of you who are new age and you're about vibration and energy and magnetics and all this stuff, this is energy coming in. Understand, vocabulary has no power. It's the energy behind the vocabulary. The words mean nothing. It's the meaning behind the words. Someone can say, oh wow, you're so dark skinned. But depending on how they mean it, what is the intent behind it? And sometimes we're not good with the intent because we already have things dwelling within us, and it skews everything. It muddles everything up. So, but someone, just to keep it simple, someone can say, oh wow, your skin's so dark. But someone can mean it in a positive way or a negative way. It can be positive energy or negative energy. If someone doesn't like dark skin, then it's being said in a negative way. If someone believes that the dark skin is beautiful, then it's being given to you, it's coming in a way of positivity. However, despite how someone means something, you have to have control over your outgoing thought about you. Anytime anyone says anything about you, you need to be aware of how you want to feel about yourself, because this is about you. This is your life. This isn't about anybody else's life. Nobody else's fucked up life that they're having. Because let me tell you, if someone is angry, someone is mean, someone is spiteful, someone is vengeful, they're in a lot of pain. So you don't want to accept anything from anyone when they're in pain. You don't want to do this. What you want to do is define who you are. You do not want to allow anyone else to define who you are. People call me all kinds of things. Not bad names, but they, things like, oh, you think you're a know-it-all, or, whatever, you're, whatever. People just say weird things. But I understand where they're coming from because I understand where they are. This is why it's so important to understand all of this stuff. Look, the language of the soul is so important. We are always broadcasting. The soul is always broadcasting our state. The soul is always broadcasting our current condition. Our current soul condition is always being broadcast 24/7. Whether it's here when you're awake in the physical world, or when you were asleep and you're interacting or living life in the spirit world. We are in both places. We are conscious 24/7, but we are not always conscious when we are in the physical world, meaning our body, our physical body. When we are sleeping, we are no longer focused on the physical world. We are focused on the non-physical world. Of course, you don't remember this. Some people do, some people don't. Some of your dreams, or what you call dreams, are experiences in the non-physical world, in the spirit world. But that's a totally different video. But what I'm saying is, it's important for you to define who you are. Don't let anybody else define who you are. So, like I said, when someone comes at you and they say something to you or about you, understand that the goal is to be a loving, positive person. So what do? We understand that at all costs, we must see ourselves in the same light that the Creator sees us. The Creator knows the potential of His children. The Creator knows that we are capable. The Creator knows the extent of our capability. The Creator knows how expansive we can become. The Creator knows that we have no limitations. The Creator knows this. But we must know this. We must know this. We cannot live life, people. You cannot progress. You cannot move forward and upward. You cannot be more loving if you do not see yourself through the lens that the Creator is seeing us. You cannot use the lens of another person. Even if another person says, oh my gosh, you're so good, you're so amazing, you're so this, you're so that. Look, people do this to me all the time. And I get it. I understand why the praise is there. However, it is something that you cannot rely on. It's okay to accept the positivity from another person, but never, ever, 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 ever rely upon it. Because people are wounded creatures. In this moment in time, on this planet, we are wounded. And anything can change our feeling and our views. And so if you rely on the acknowledgement from other people, if you rely on the praise, if you will rely on the acknowledgement from another, you will fall into a dark place, because people are unpredictable and unreliable. Predictable and reliable being that we have access to, and that is the Creator. The Creator is always predictable. This is why the universal laws are in place. You can always depend on them. They will always be functioning as they have been functioning since the beginning of time. You can always rely on the love from the Creator. You can always rely that the Creator will listen to you. And you can always rely that the Creator will bring you that which you need to help you move forward. You can always rely on the Creator bringing you the answers to the questions that you have. You can always rely on the Creator. This is why it's so important to know the Creator. It's important. I'm not saying you have to go to church and jump up and down and say hallelujah. I'm not saying that you have to walk around with a Bible. I'm not saying you have to pray in the corner to the east. I'm not saying you have to wear white. I'm not saying you have to bang on bowls. I'm not saying you have to burn incense. I'm not saying you have to knock on people's door. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying it's important to understand even if, listen people, even if you do not have a connection with the Creator, it is important to understand the Creator and the Creator's creations. It's important to understand you. It's important to understand the operation and the function of the soul. It is important to understand the function and the operation of the universe. It's important to understand the universal laws that are in place. It is so important to understand, even if you do not understand, even if you do not have a connection with the Creator. Because I guarantee you, once you see and experience all the evidence that is out there to be experienced, and I don't mean all of it, I mean once you start to experience the facts, the truths of the universe, you will then be able to have the connection with the Creator. There are many people out there who believe they have a connection with God but do not understand God. They say God is a mystery. God, no one knows what God is doing or what plans God has for me. We know the plans that God has for us. The plan is for us to be happy. The plan is for us to experience only the best, joyful, happy moments that we can experience. That is the plan. And every single universal law is designed to support that. Every single universal law is designed to support that. Even someone who gets cancer, which is part of the universal law in place. This is a law of attraction, responding to that which dwells within your soul. Did God give you cancer? No. Your soul condition gave you cancer. But the law of attraction is bringing you this physical experience on purpose so that you can see the degradation that dwells within your soul that caused the cancer. That's it. Again, the universe is doing nothing other than reflecting back to you what dwells within you. Cancer is not a curse. Cancer is a blessing, but you have to understand what it is. This is why I said again, it is important to understand the universal laws. It is important to understand the structure and the function of things around us, including how our soul operates. I have a police officer behind me. You can always tell who they are. I don't know why. He's in his own personal car, but you can always tell who these people are. But anyway, this is why it's important to understand, so that you understand. Understand. If you understand, then you understand. And when you have an understanding as to how things function and operate, you are in a better position to create a more pleasing experience, having a more loving, a more happy, a more joyful, a more fulfilling life. You dig? But anyway, going back to feeling worthy. If you want to feel worthy, you need to have a bunch of outgoing thoughts. But you can't just have thoughts. You can't just say something. This is why affirmations don't work for people. I'm not saying they don't work for everybody. But someone who is truly disconnected from their emotional being will only be able to say the words, repeat the words in repetition. I am love, I am light, I am beautiful, I am worthy, God loves me, all of these different things, but they're just words. Words have no meaning. The soul gives them meaning. It's the soul that determines whether something means something or not. It's the soul that determines whether or not something has value or not. It will decide for itself. Just as God has created all things, God has decided what is valuable, what is love, what is supporting. God has already defined this from God's perspective. But the soul will do this on its own as well. Understand that we are young souls. If I am 42 years old, then my soul is owned, my consciousness, my soul, not my soul. The souls are, I don't think anybody really knows how old the souls are because they're created, but I'm talking about the consciousness, the development of the soul. It's very young. 42, look, there are spirits who are 250,000 years old. Understand, these are spirits, these are souls who have been living for 250,000 years. Now look at someone who is only 42 years old, and you can see how much of in our infancy we are in this moment. It's very important to understand where we stand, because when I realized that wow, these spirits who've been out there for thousands of years, even 5,000 years, which is a fraction of 250,000 years, 5,000 years, and I'm only 42 years old compared to someone who's 5,000 years old. They've had a long time to figure some stuff out. I haven't. But the things that I've learned thus far has given me an upper hand. It has given me an upper hand, and for those who listen and understand how you function, who you are, what you are, you have an upper hand too. And when I say upper hand, I mean you have an advantage. You have an advantage to having a better life experience, increasing the love within your soul so that you can create and manifest a different life experience for yourself in physical form and in the non-physical form. Because it's all about experiences. That's it. On this planet, everything we do is based on experience. You want a new car? What's the experience you have? What's the feeling you have? What's the emotions you have? That's what it's all about. You buy a house, you walk into your home. What's the experience of walking into your own home? What's the experience of walking into your apartment versus not having that? This is what's important. This is the only thing that's important, is our experiences. So when you focus on a thought that is coming in, that is an experience. But you best believe you better have control over that outgoing thought, because that's going to determine what your belief is about yourself. If someone says you're not good enough, and you know that that's something that you don't want dwelling within, you better have an outgoing thought. And that outgoing thought better be, I am beautiful, I am perfect. But understand that the person who is telling you about you, or attempting to tell you about you, is looking at you from the physical perspective. They're looking at the physical perspective based on the physical perspective, their physical perspective. But what you need to do is look at yourself through the non-physical perspective. You have to look at yourself from the perspective of the Creator. You have to look at yourself from the perspective of you being a soul. You're not the physical being. You are a soul. You are a non-physical entity, creating all of this physical experience just for the sake of having the experience. This is what is important. We must understand this, because if we don't, you will always. This is why when people say things to me, I understand where they're coming from. They don't understand where they're coming from. They think they know where they're coming from, but they do not. This is why it's so important for you to know the truth of what you are, who you are, and the extent that you can grow. The vastness of love that is able to dwell within you. All these things are important to know, because if you don't, you're always going to be moving and bobbing and weaving through what people throw at you. And there's no need for that. You can stand firmly in who you are, what you are, no matter who throws anything at you. It doesn't matter. This is what Jesus achieved. You can say anything you want to him. You can do whatever you want to him, as they did. They shamed him. They beat him. They ultimately killed him. And it did not change who he was, because he was solid in who he was. He understood what he was, what he is, what he still is. He understood that. On earth, he understood that when nobody else did. Which is why he was able to do and achieve all the things that he was able to do and achieve. All right, everybody, that's it. That's all I have for that. You can do it. You just have to control those outgoing thoughts. So when someone says something to you, you have an outgoing thought that is positive, that is loving, that is the truth. This is why it's so important to know the truth. If you know how God sees you, then you know the truth. Anything else is BS, and it has no place in your life unless you want it to. And if you want it to, your outgoing thought will be the same as the incoming thought. All right, everybody, have a great Wednesday, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye now.